Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast, your home for inspiring conversations with outdoor insiders. Each week, author, speaker, adventurer, and outdoor industry veteran Rick Saez talks in depth with iconic brand founders, sales and marketing pros, product designers, and industry rising stars. Listen in when Rick's guests offer actionable advice to land your ideal industry gig and grow your outdoor career. Catch us again when the conversation shifts to the hottest outdoor products, destinations, and the latest industry insights. And now, here's Rick.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Today we're dropping episode 332 with Kenji Haroutunian and Lance Camisasca from the Big Gear Show. We talk about the inaugural Big Gear Show and how they thought it went and what we can expect this time out. Lance, Kenji, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hey Rick, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Nice to be here, Rick.
So let's start off by telling listeners who you are and about your role with the Big Gear Show. Lance, this is your first time on the show. Why don't you give us your take on that?
Be happy to. So I'm Lance Camisasca. I'm a lifelong bicycle industry professional, I guess. Started my way up through retail. Spent 7 years in retail management. Then decided I wanted to go to the other side of the fence and work for brands. And I worked with three different global brands over the next 13 years until this trade show concept was knocking on my door, which was the show director for Interbike. And I was lucky enough to land that position. I stayed with Interbike for 10 years as the show director. And then I didn't really like the way the show was headed. So I decided to leave and start my own little event company where I had a vision to do these very small, very intimate, experiential events, focused mainly on the media. I did these events called Press Camp, where we brought a number of media members in to meet some really interesting brands at a sexy resort. And we would spend 3 days talking about products and riding products and having good meals and really enjoying each other's company. And I did that for almost a decade. And then I was kind of unemployed, if you will. I was consulting and helping other brands do a better job at trade shows until I heard about the Big Gear Show. And it was about to be launched. And Sutton Bacon, our CEO and owner of the show group, we got on a call. We spoke for an hour and a half. And within a week, I was hired. I just love the concept. It was everything that I thought was needed for bike, outdoor, and paddle. And the only thing that we were missing at that point after this call and this week that went by was somebody to do the outdoor portion. And I said, well, my dear friend Kenji, who's got a similar path as I had, would be a perfect guy to join this team. And there's Kenji right in front of me. So it all worked out.
Great segue. Wow. Can it get any better than that, Rick?
That's perfect. I just want to go back quickly, though. Those press events were fantastic. I never went to one, but I heard great things about them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was very proud of them. I mean, they served a really needed purpose. We were looking for interesting brands that had interesting stories, and they were getting dwarfed by the big brands, and they didn't have a platform really. And even at the trade shows, they were chaotic and they couldn't get the media's attention. So we thought if we created an event for mid-sized companies that have great stories and bring in all the best journalists, we were onto something. And what confirmed that really was I had the concept in my head, and I sat down 1 month and I called 30 journalists from my Rolodex of working with Interbike, and 30 out of 30, eventually I got a hold of all of them over a month. They all said, if you do that, I'm coming.
Wow. So
I thought, well, I think I'm on to something, and started calling brands. And the next thing we had our event. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
It was a great experience.
That's what I hear. Yeah, there you go. Good on you. And it's a perfect setup for what you guys are doing now. Kenji, this is year 2 for you at the Big Gear Show, the outdoor guy. How'd that happen?
Yeah, well, I mostly just try to follow Lance around because he does some really cool things. But we did work together back at the trade shows. I was there in charge of the outdoor retailer team. He was in charge of the Interbike team. And so I learned a lot during that experience, and then also left to kind of do my own thing. In 2015, I worked with different other events, including Grassroots Connect and some other organizations connected to the outdoor industry. And then got together with Lance and we did a couple outdoor press camps. So we had combined the bike press camp plus an outdoor press camp into one like super press camp. A couple times we did that. And then I've known Sutton actually for many years during his time serving on the board of the OIA and running a retail outfit he called Nantahala Outdoor Center. So he was a retailer in my world of outdoor, specifically on the paddle, canoe and kayak side. And so I got called into service, what I consider into service of the industry again, to help bring this vision to life of a new kind of event that kind of took the best of our experiences and brought them to the industry to kind of create a new model that fit better financially, that refocused our energies on the gear that gets people outdoors, on participants, and eventually the consumer, where there's so much dynamic energy right now and excitement around new participants. And that's another thing I do, Rick, is in addition to my work with the Big Gear Show, I'm an inclusion and equity advocate in the outdoor space. So I work with the Fly Fishing Trade Association and OIA and other organizations to help advance our reach and our invitation to more people to come and be part of our world. And that's the greater outdoor recreation world that includes bike and paddle and outdoor and even some motorized categories.
Yeah, we've really gotten a shot in the arm from COVID because so many people are getting outside these days. You guys have probably seen it in your outdoor adventures. We sure saw it on the Eastern Sierra here last year. The campgrounds were all full and people were out doing their thing. So it's good to see. We need to do a better job of coaching them up and helping them have a better experience, but it's great to see them out.
Yeah, and that's where I think the focus on the specialty retail folks, the bike shops, the outdoor outfitters, the paddle liveries, and touch points in all the communities, thousands of communities across the country where people, when they're curious, can learn. They can go, they can have a meeting, they can meet up with their friends and learn more about how to do this responsibly. That's really the key if we're going to get more people out, is to actually be able to lessen our impact, particularly on sensitive areas like the high desert or the alpine environments above where you live, the canyons and the riverways and Owens, and they're all sensitive environments. Which is partly why we love to go and visit these wild places. But to keep them wild, we do need to have a voice and intercede before it's just trampled,
overrun. Yeah, and make sure they have fun too, because a lot of times we all know some of this gear can be a little intimidating. So we want to make sure they know how to wear it and use it and get out there and have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first show was pretty successful, very successful, I would say, when I was there. What are two or three of the outcomes that you're most pleased with from that first event? I guess, Kenji, this one's for you. You were
Yeah, I'll take that one on. I think there's a lot of learnings. I mean, first of all, you have to question the wisdom of launching a show in the middle of a pandemic, but such is our madness, I guess. But I think the main thing is we struck the right vibe. And vibe is one of those crazy terms, sort of, what are you talking about term? It's a little bit like other terms that I've used with people over the years. Like, what does that mean? Core, what does that mean? But that's really so important when you're producing an event, that it feel a certain way, that it actually help people kind of feel like they are welcome and it fits who they are and they don't feel awkward. I remember on the awkward side, I once walked, into the snow show, and snow shows, I belong there. I'm a good skier. I feel super confident in that world. But then I walked into the snowboard area and I think I was wearing a leather jacket and a button-up shirt, or just like, I just felt so awkward. Like, what am I doing here? I can't, there's no way I can stand or put my hand on my hip or tilt my head, and there's nothing I can do to feel anything but awkward. So I think
those snowboarders made a lot of folks feel awkward because we were all buttoned up and they were having a great time. So
yeah,
good what they were doing though. Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like I certainly didn't belong. And I think what we tried to do was help the groups that were coming together, the cycling industry and the outdoor trail sports and on the water and on the mountain worlds coming together and helping them feel like, hey, we're here together and we're happy to be here and we're excited for the industry and we're psyched for the gear and we're psyched for the stories that have come out of this. And it had already been well over a year that we had been in various phases of lockdown and kept away from each other. So there was this feeling of, like, I think safety, like we're outdoors, we're not packed in aisles and we're not elbow to elbow and nostril to nostril. And we were I think we created this vibe, in other words, that matched the time, that matched the feelings, and it recognized how people felt. they did feel vulnerable. They did feel unsure. They did feel a sense of unsafeness. It's in some ways. And so creating an event, creating solutions that help them feel much, much safer and much better, while at the same time facilitating the business of the industry was just, I think, the biggest success. What would you say, Lance?
Well, I pick up on what you said. I think it's really true. The vibe is something, it's a non-tangible type of thing that good shows have. And I think the vibe was really strong, but I'll talk more about the fundamentals. I mean, we really set out to have a show that, would have product discovery, would have good education, would have a great demo component to it, particularly in cycling. We wanted to have good media there. All the things on the whiteboard that actually shaped and formed the show, I think we hit on every one of those. Every one of those bucket list check marks were met. And then, as Kenji said, I mean, the vibe of all of that coming together was powerful. I mean, I think we all high-fived at the end and realized that we met all those objectives. We were critical on ourselves. We knew we could do some things better, but in my history, I've launched, I don't know, over a half a dozen new concepts. And boy, you go into that first day and you don't know what's going to happen. And I think I knew on the second hour that we hit it. I mean, it just felt good. And it felt like I saw people discovering product. I saw people demoing. I saw people in education. I saw the media. I saw all the things that we had on that whiteboard in the first couple hours. And I knew we were onto something. And we're so looking forward to next year with the guardrails down and the ability to grow it. A lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. I kind of felt that when I walked up and got in line, because it had been so long since I had seen people, it was back to you're high-fiving across the line and everybody was back, and you just felt that energy that we hadn't had for a while. So you felt that right out of the gate. How about, are there a couple of activities or a couple of things that you wish went more smoothly or in some way better? You kind of didn't quite feel you nailed that one?
Yeah, for sure. I think we learned a metric ton of stuff in that first year, because even though we were all veterans of producing events, I mean, between Lance, myself, and Sutton, I mean, we've got 50 plus years of event management and production in our system. But this was a new concept. There were elements of it taken from many different experiences and then put together. So we knew a lot, but we learned a lot. And so I think there was so much to learn from, because we were in the middle of this sort of unprecedented social situation, which was the pandemic. How to come up with solutions in an environment to help people feel comfortable, like our lanyard color coding, which got copied across the different events later on. And I have to say that spoke to another thing that we haven't mentioned, and that is the partnerships that we went in with. The NBDA, the Grassroots Outdoor Alliance, organizations, local and national, really helped us to shape that thing out. And we were very much in touch with the right folks, I think. And so that helped us come up with those solutions. But I think staffing, registration, the process element of it, we needed to put more horses on that earlier on. And I think we've learned to create some systems and put in place systems that are improved over last year. So I feel like that's, part of it. We were very focused on retailers last year, but we didn't have a person in charge of retailers. And this year we've changed that.
Interesting. Smart.
Because I think retailers, they're so often the forgotten. Either they're assumed they're out of business, they just don't know it yet, or everyone's kind of obsessed with the big brands and the big budgets and the big online retailers, who are many times a threat, or at least a consideration for the specialty shops. But we need those shops. We need those shops back to the community, right? We need them in the community. We need them as resources for local scout troops and clubs and informal meetups and all of that. We need those touch points in the community. So that's what we're about. And I think we knew that going in, but I think having someone laser focused on that has been really helpful for us. Little things, other staffing support and like food options were challenges last year, partly because of staffing and just the nature of what was going on with pandemic, the response to pandemic, and the different factors that we tapped into, or contractors like food and such. So that is something we feel we can do a lot better on this year. That was a bit of a challenge. I don't know, What else?
Lance, you got anything? I think the food thing was probably limited to what the host made available because of the pandemic. That threw
That's exactly
curve,
right.
Curve in everybody's.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the food. I mean, we had some things lined up that actually didn't even come true in the final hours because of the pandemic and lack of staffing and that type of thing. But I think Kenji said it really well. I mean, I think the communication aspect of the show, we did the best we could. And when you have a new show that no one's ever been to, and they've really never even been to a show like this show, you're kind of telling people to squint and imagine this. And how do you communicate that effectively is really difficult. And I think it was difficult to communicate going into it. And then we could have done better. So it was really twofold that I thought it's hard to describe it, and we could have described it even better with the limited resources we had. And I think in general, as Kenji said, staffing up, having a dedicated person for the retail community is huge, absolutely huge. And we already feel the progress we've made, and we haven't had the show yet. So communicating, staffing up, looking in the rearview mirror at the things that went wrong, the things we know we can fix. That's really what we're looking forward to. Yeah,
that makes sense. When you got one under your belt, it's always better to have one done, and now you can improve on it moving forward, right? It's no longer a blank. It's not a blank canvas.
Images and video, and like we have stories, testimonials,
right? Exactly,
all kinds of stuff.
Exactly,
right. That all helps. Yeah. So, what kind of changes can we expect as the second show comes along? Let's start with layout. Maybe is there any layout changes you're going to make?
I can start with that, Kenji, and you can add on. We started that process literally today, and we like the layout. Funny enough, reviewing last year's floor plan and looking at it, Kenji, tell me if I'm nuts, but I think we came away with that we like the floor plan we laid out. It's going to be bigger, of course, because we're already quite a bit ahead of where we were. But I think, generally speaking, the show is going to look a lot like the show we had in 21. We may, in fact, I think we made the decision that we're going to try to not do zones as much as we did. We were pretty zoned in 21, where we had paddle in a specific area and cycling and outdoor. There'll be some of that because of the necessity of, for example, paddle needs to be by the water. So that's going to be a natural zone just by default. But I think we built a show around cross-pollination and bringing segments together. So the last thing we want to do is build silos. We want to take down any silos that we might have had last year and try to have a little bit more interaction. So you might notice that when you come into the show. But generally speaking, I think it's going to feel and look a lot like last year. When you say, Kenji?
It'll be a little denser for sure. It'll be a little tighter because we purposely made like large aisles and like spaced things out quite a bit. We had the room to do that. And it just, again, created that sense of safety and airiness that was really important. So it'll be a little more compressed this time, just because we're going to fit more people into the same spot. But what else?
Let's shift to participants. So more, obviously denser. So there's going to be more brands there, and also I'm assuming more retailers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been our super focus this year as well, getting retailers to register in advance and to be able to be in communication with them and have a personal kind of a concierge with them.
Yeah, that's smart.
It's really important to have that. We have to be a lean. We're trying to make this event really kind of affordable for the upstart and for the small size business, which a lot of the other shows are just untouchable. Like you cannot get a space for what you can put on your credit card. Like that's not, you need 5 of them and then maybe it'll work out. But those are the important innovative stories. Like remember when GoPro was just starting, or Keen Footwear, or these like upstart brands, like they literally started on a shoestring, and that's who we're trying to bring up and highlight for the benefit of the retailers, as well as to excite people about what's going on in the industry and the pace of innovation and the integration of technology and all of that. So I think that's something you'll see that's different is we'll have those kind of like really, really creative, innovative, small company in numbers, as well as a lot of the leading brands that you're not going to see at the other shows.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Lance, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say to put it in perspective. I mean, we already have on May 17th, twice as many brands registered than we had at this time last year. So we're off to and we had a lofty goal of doubling our brand count and doubling our retail unique business count. And we are pretty far ahead of where we finished last year on retail company counts. So, I mean, if all goes well, we may actually hit that crazy lofty goal we had. But
awesome.
It's definitely going to be bigger. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Good. We're going to take a little break and give some love to our sponsor, Thrive Market. Think organic groceries are too expensive? So does Thrive Market. They guarantee savings on healthy groceries and home essentials delivered. How? It's easy. They work directly with the best organic brands so you get the highest quality products without the big retail markups. Shop everything from pantry essentials to sustainable meat and seafood to non-toxic cleaning supplies. And save up to 30% on your favorite products. Choose a free gift up to $24 in value when you purchase a Thrive Market membership. 1 year and 1 month memberships are available. Go to ricksays.com/Thrive Market and get your membership today. That's ricksays.com/Thrive Market. Now, back to the show. What about the presentation side of the world? Are there going to be more presentations, different? I'm assuming all of the above as you continue to grow and add on and evolve.
Yeah, I'll jump on that just to say that last year, that partnership with NBDA was really great. They really focused and brought a kick-ass education platform to the show that was available to both bike retailers as well. All of our education is focused on retailers. So it's really not talking about excise taxes and what's going on in the supply chain, way up the chain. It's really about like what you can do in your shop to advance the ball, to compete better, to be more inclusive, and to carry the right stuff and continue the growth that we've been seeing for the past couple of years. So on the outdoor side, we've made a lot of investment and improvement there just to power up more further in advance, to really be curated like we are with the attendance, but with the education offering.
That's good. That's smart. Yeah. Lance, anything to add to that?
Well, the only thing I was going to add specific to bike is I think we're going to see a lot more products in those different exhibits than we saw last year because of the supply channel was a complete train wreck a year ago. I mean, it's not 100% back, but there's going to be more product to look at, I believe, and there's certainly going to be more product to demo than we saw in 21, and that's understandable. And no one complained about what happened last year. They all saw what was going on with the supply chain, but we are seeing improvements, and I think we're going to see improvements at the show with more product and more things to test.
Yeah, exciting. More stuff, more toys to see. That's going to be pretty fun. Exactly. Exactly. Who doesn't? And these toys, I mean, we all love them. Are you going to maintain the COVID protocols this time around? I mean, it's all still fluctuating, and we were just talking before the show started. We might need masks again.
I'll start, Kenji, and you can finish. I mean, I think the answer is we're going to do what's necessary, as we did last year. You know, we did what was necessary. We were innovative. Kenji had the concept of the green and red and yellow badge lanyards and more stuff like that. But I don't want to say now we're going to be doing all that because we may not need that. I also don't want to say we're not going to do anything because we might need to do something. And I don't want to scare anybody by saying we're going to have all these protocols in place and they probably won't come. We'll scare the heck out of them. But so I think the answer is we're going to do what's appropriate. We have a track record of doing what's appropriate. And that's what we're going to do.
That's smart. And you're fluid, so you can adapt. That's good. Yeah. Kenji, anything to add to that one?
I think we feel this sense of a much better environment trapped indoors or packed very tightly indoors. We have this sort of limitless sky, and people are encouraged to be out on the trail and up on the crag and out on the mountain and out on the water and out on the road. We're actually not trying to create a packed sardine can situation. We're actually kind of moving up in a different direction, Rick. When we're not measuring our success by how many people are bumping each other in the aisles or sharing droplets. I think we're really about having the right people there, having the right people to serve the industry need, to get the retailers there, to serve the retailers' need, and to have the brands have an amazing experience of having a curated audience.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine the brands that are there measure that as well. I mean, they're not measured by how many people they see in the booth. They're probably measuring it by how many bikes they got out on the trail that weekend, or boats in the water, or...
I would say yes and no. I think that there's such a legacy, there's such a history of what we expect out of shows that it's almost like a default where when we're not thinking about it, we're just judging the show by how dense the aisle is. We're judging the show based on things like orders written, which really Like that order writing at shows is, unless you have a show that's custom built for that purpose, that's not, you can write orders anywhere. You can write orders at midnight with a glass of wine sitting at your desk. I mean, that's not the business per se. I mean, it's still super important, but the process that leads up to that, the process of relationship development, process of gaining trust and getting creative with collaborative relationship, blah, blah, blah. That's a lot of that is the business too. And that's what we're trying to facilitate during the time of the Big Gear Show, honoring the specialty shops and serving them and the dealers and the brands who prioritize them.
That makes sense. And that whole order writing timing is shifted too. So it's
going to keep on.
It's going to keep moving. Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Nobody's going to get out ahead of that.
All right. How about, what was the response from Park City? Were they pretty happy? I would think so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Deer Valley was very honored that we selected them for the show. They're always happy to have that type of clientele come through their campus.
Right.
The best brands in the world and some of the best retailers in North America. And they're all active lifestyle individuals. So certainly that's the right audience. And I'm sure they're going to have a lot of weddings and other things booked because of our presence.
Right.
So
yeah. Right.
It's a great alignment. They're happy.
Mm-hmm. Are they doing anything different? Any different kind of support you're getting? Obviously more space or
really more support because their staffing is coming back and we're going to be able to tap into their catering and some of their services that they couldn't do last year. And Deer Valley Resort scores the top 3, if not the best in the ski industry magazines for their food and their services. We're happy to have them back because they were a little bit absent last year, understandably, because we're working through the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. And that's fantastic. It was a great spot and we'll look forward to it again. Yeah. Have you placed your order for fabulous weather again?
Was that on your list, Lance? Because I didn't have that on my tick list.
Well, I'm on my knees doing prayers every night. But I live here, but it's only my 3rd year. And last summer, actually, it just didn't rain at all. But I know from doing events here for a decade almost, it's kind of typical in August to have a late afternoon thunderstorm blow through. We had those 3 pretty perfect days. In fact, the only thing that was odd about last year on the last day, we had the smoke coming in from the wildfires. That was unusual. And that came in from the West Coast. I don't know. I mean, weather is pretty good. Yeah.
It's a mountain town and we're all mountain people. So we're used to it. I mean, if it rains, we'll put a rain jacket on and we'll deal with it.
Yeah, we're all
Lance, you might have forgotten about the torrential rainstorms that were 3 days in a row.
Leading into the show. That's right. I did forget about that. You're right. In fact, the day of setup, it rained pretty good. Yeah,
it rained. It was raining hard, and so we were like, okay, but yeah, I'm feeling super lucky from last year. So I don't know if you can ask for 2 in a row like that. Yeah, we could skip the smoke on the teardown day, but
so many.
At least it didn't come in during the show. That would have been hard to.
Yeah, those 3 days
trail run with that smoke in there.
Yeah, we lived with
that all summer. Spectacular though. They were great days. So.
They were fantastic. Yeah.
I'll do what I can. I'll do my dance out here.
There you go. We're all will. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's shift gears a little bit. Where do you guys stand in relation to the politics of the day? Maybe not specifically trade show politics, but the state of Utah politics. There's been a lot of stuff being talked about, bantered back and forth.
Well, that's really in Kenji's wheelhouse. I'm going to let him take it.
Yeah, Rick, we could certainly do like an entire podcast on this topic.
Probably will have to do that sometime.
Because it's our industry is in such an interesting position overall, like outdoor recreation. It has to happen, for the most part on public lands. And we share these lands with ranchers and with mineral developers and with oil and gas industry people and with all kinds of different user groups. And so that's really where this debate has risen up and it's turned the volume has been turned up quite a bit on it. And the idea of boycotting a show in Utah because of Utah's politics, I'll put the air quotes around that, versus politics in other states. I've spent a lot of time on the Access Fund board. I've spent a lot of time in DC. I just got back from DC, in fact, last week, and in Sacramento, my work there, trying to amplify the voice of our corner of the outdoor industry, the human-powered outdoor rec on public lands industry, if you want to call it that. And there's definitely a different view among some legislators in Utah, but we've worked together with them in the past. They were the first state to have an Office of Outdoor Recreation. They're one of the most well-funded outdoor recreation infrastructure platforms in the country. They love their public lands there. They love recreation and the industry that supports it and benefits from it. They just have a nuanced view on who should be running those lands or who should be managing them, given that 70% of the state federal lands in Utah. So they are listening to their communities, they're listening to the native people of the region, they're listening to who they're listening to. And all of the states have to do that same thing. Personally, I don't agree with a lot of it, but I would rather have that open conversation with some skin in the game and be able to talk to Governor Cox and be able to talk to their lawmakers face to face and say, this is who we are and this is what we represent. And this is how we benefit your state. And this is how we would like to be treated with respect to the other interest groups that we know you have to balance. And it's not like Colorado doesn't also balance that as well.
Well, I was just going to say, you really can't pick any state that doesn't have these issues. Just some have more or less than others, but they all have them. And you can't say you're not going to go, because if you say you're not going to go, then you're not going anywhere. So,
well, right. And what does that do? Like,
and where does it get you? Right.
Yeah. Does that help us? Does a boycott help us get somewhere? Are we scoring points somewhere? I'm not seeing that. And so I think that wherever we are, and we have to be able to use that and amplify our effect. And I think that there are many people in Utah's government that we have a relationship with, that we're growing in relationship with, and that are paying close attention to our industry. That's a great opportunity for us. So I will have to say, I think that just lastly, the spectacle or the drama of the decision to go or not go, or to stay or go, like that's sort of, media is kind of custom made to amplify that story. And it's a great opportunity to air out some big voices and some big challenges. But at the end of the day, I have to tell you, Rick, very few of our exhibitor clients, our attending retailers, the media that's attending, like that's not their priority. They're going to come if we can get a conversation in the public realm where we can hear directly from lawmakers, understand that nuanced view, come back to them with kind of our view on solutions. Then that's the situation that I envision, at least at this year's show.
Well, and I think it makes a good argument too for the fact that it's better to be on the offense and go there and do things and get involved and have the conversation, as opposed to shut down and not go, or play defense and say, well, I'm not going there because they're doing this. Because if you don't go and you don't get involved and you don't have these conversations, it definitely never gets better. So I think what you guys are doing is a good example of how to be proactive. That's good. Good on you.
Yeah. I was going to give the example, Kenji, that in 2017, when this topic started to really heat up, we were hosting a press camp, and we brought in, at that time, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox, who's now the governor, to face the fire. We had 50 members of the media there and another 100 brand personnel, and we sat face to face and we discussed this issue. And I was very proud. I mean, Kenji orchestrated much of that, and I was so proud to have that moment. And you couldn't do that if you were somewhere else. I mean, the best way to do it is to be at the table, as they've been saying. So why can't we do that again? I'm sure we probably will as we go forward if we have to. And we're in a great position to take on those challenges.
Yeah. And also, just to speak to that, we also brought in the voices at the press camp in 2017 of the Native people.
Yes, we did.
We had representatives from the tribes, and we also had representatives from a woman who is a media person who lived in the Bears Ears and could speak firsthand about her experience talking to people there, where she drove into the monument with a Protect the Monument sticker on her Jeep. And then she drove out 3 weeks later or 2 months later with a Protect the Monument sticker and a No Monument sticker on her Jeep. So this speaks to the nuanced situation. Why would she do that as a kind of dyed-in-the-wool outdoor recreation professional? So there's a lot there. It's hard to get that in a soundbite or a hashtag campaign, but there's a lot there.
Yep, I just had to ask the question. Yeah. As we finish up, is there anything else you'd like to ask or say to our listeners, or ask of? our future attendees, we're going to see them all in a few months?
Sure. I would say just look into the Big Gear Show. Take a look at our site. Take a look at the registered retailers. We keep that list up to date every week. Take a look at the exhibitors that are with us exhibiting. It's a compelling list, and let us know. We're a small, very nimble team. We can take suggestions. We can take criticism. We can take all kinds of feedback. And that's how we're going to build the show that the industries need going forward, is to work with the community and bring it to life. So please come visit. Please check it out.
Yeah.
Good on you. Well, we look forward to seeing everybody. It's been great chatting with you guys. I look forward to seeing you out there in a few weeks, and we'll do it again.
Few weeks?
Wow.
Well, I'm not counting the weeks like you guys are, so but I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good to see you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Rick. Good opportunity.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or spread the word and tell a friend about the show. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week. And thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Saez.